Hey everybody, we were just doing Q&A in our last session, so we're just going to follow up with a question or two, and then we're going to jump into a practice. So,
Yeah, you can unmute yourself if you want to.
You hear me?
Yeah,
yes,
go ahead,
yes.
Dean.
Okay. My thoughts are that you're going from one age to the other, and the previous age is of a lower vibration, and many people have never progressed themselves in that lower vibration and moving into the new vibration, the higher vibration. It creates difficulty and chaos within themselves and with things around them. And so basically, what's happening when you see negative things happening in your life and stuff like that, and I look at it as you're stirring up the negative, but you're stirring it up because it's on its way out.
Yeah. Especially if you process it well. Like if you engage that intuitive mind, which is associated with the rest and repair mode of your nervous system, and it's associated with healing and learning lessons and just learning, problem solving, innovating. um like you said, like anything that gets stirred up, uh if we go through and process it, we become better for it. But if we
And,
keep doing the same thing over and over again, or having like a stress response, or trying to wrestle with it and make it go away, and we end up, you know,
yeah, because I just step back, take a breath, look at it, and realize it can be on its way out.
yeah,
So, and I try to help it along a little bit with that. So,
no, good. That's great.
it's, and then I see people that just, they can't let's put it this way, they have their hat pulled over their eyes and they can't see.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
and it's impolite to knock their hat off. So
Yeah,
okay.
that's a good way of putting it.
So this was in the last one. I know we are going to get into the practice, so we don't want to do too much, but they said lately there has been so much chaos being thrown at us. It's hard to know what to think or believe. What can we do to center ourselves when overstimulated from the outer world? Is there a practice we can do to help increase connection to our own authenticity/truth?
Yeah. I mean, I'd say all the things that we do all the time with our star practices are all in that vein. And so, there's a couple things that I would say are kind of go-to practices. And one is, for one, Lama Yoga, um, as a practice. But even if you break down Lama Yoga and you set aside even the meditation part and the head movement part with turtle breathing, is that idea of putting your awareness on your body. And it seems like such a simple thing, but it kind of keeps you out of your head. And if you think of like stress thinking or hypothetical thinking, like, oh, what about this, what about that, what if this goes wrong, what if they do this, what if, any sort of version of that, um you're engaged in the part of the nervous system that is fight flight. You're trying to manage something, where if you think of the idea of being born again, is like sometimes in that repetition you have to be able to go, I'm going to let this go. I'm going to, even though we maybe have identified with it, we're going to let it die off or not continue to maintain it. And I would say really what that is simply a shift from concentration to awareness. And when we're when we're using the intellectual mind, or like stress state, or even if we're not stressed out, we're still thinking in that repetitive way, because intellect tries to generate stability through repetition, right? And so even when it's trying to problem solve, it's just trying to maintain something. What do I need to do for it to get back to the way that I was, or the way that I want it to be, right? That is associated with concentration or focus. And as much as we try to set that aside, that's part of our makeup, you know. And so instead of wrestling with it, we just lean into it. We go, okay, if we're going to concentrate and focus, let's really concentrate and focus. And the idea draws upon the concepts of yin and yang, right? Yin being the form, yin being associated with the intellect, yin being associated with the fight flight mechanisms, and yang being expansion, movement, intuition, and in the body, rest and repair, right? And so what happens is whenever something becomes very polarized, it produces the opposite, right? So as much as we wrestle with trying to break out of that concentration and trying to cultivate that sort of awareness, sometimes we're not in enough of the extreme, right? We're kind of in the in-between place, right? So if we go, okay, I'm going to feel something in my body. I'm going to observe my body. Where do I feel tension? And then you focus on it. You really focus on it. And then over a period of time, a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, all of a sudden, your awareness begins to shift, and you're shifting out of that concentration and you're shifting into awareness. And I would say times where things are difficult around you, or maybe you got triggered a little bit by something, or something's a little upsetting, or you just have a task in front of you and you're like, I don't even know what to do. You can observe it, then come back to the body, go, okay, I'm going to observe my body. Where do I feel it? Okay, I feel it like in my shoulder blade. And then you concentrate on your shoulder blade. And then eventually you shift into that more expanded state, that level or degree of awareness. And so in that, you're beginning to shift how your mind is working and how your nervous system is working. You're shifting into rest and repair mode. You're shifting into instinctive processing, emotional processing, and mental processing. And you're engaging your wiring for learning, but also for healing. When we're in intellect, when we're in repetition, by its nature, repetition doesn't process. Repetition doesn't process the instinctive response. Repetition doesn't process emotion, right? It identifies with something and then tries to hold on to it or to maintain it, right? And so the more that gets challenged, the more we go into a deeper stressed state, right? And so that simple practice of observing something outside of yourself, coming back to your body, and then observing it, it puts you into a deeper state of awareness. So that's one aspect. Another aspect is that kind of meditation that we do, where we observe something like a prayer, an area of healing. We maybe put our awareness on the heart. We journey within the heart a little bit. But even if we don't do that piece, then we go to the back heart, then we go to the navel, and inch and a half below the navel, we experience the spine, we go to the brain and the crown. That idea of the back heart to the navel to the crown is a way to regulate the sympathetic nervous system. It's a way to offset what you would call sympathetic nervous system dysregulation. And this isn't something that is just purely Astara. This was something that is based on practices from ancient times. And a version of this was given to Moses, and, or I should say, was given by Moses. And the aspect that was given by Moses was to use this process that I'm talking about to address what he called like karmic issues, right? And so the instructions were to repeat this up to 7 times. And in doing so, you're shifting your physiology, you're shifting your mental faculties, and you're engaging in a process that helps the soul eventually evolve. Because healing in the body, healing in the mind is a lower form of the soul evolving. Like it's a manifestation. So it could be a manifestation of the soul evolving as we go through a healing process, or the healing process can stimulate the soul evolving. Now, this doesn't mean that if you don't heal from something, or you have a health issue that's not getting better, that your soul's not evolving. It's not about the end result, it's about the journey. And the more that you can engage those intuitive components in the face of the difficulties, the more that our body can shift, our mind can shift and process, but then also the soul can grow and evolve. Yeah. Some great questions today.
Yeah, we had one more. I don't know.
Okay.
It was just, it seems to me that the let go from the ego, it takes a long time. It is my experience that as we synchronize with other layers to experience communion with whatever we may be able to navigate it, the unknown of the subconscious can be challenging to a mystical pattern.
Sure.
And then they said, sorry for being so long. Thank you, Greg, for your contribution to our spiritual development.
Oh, you're so
I have
sweet.
had great results with discipline of the mind with you. Your teachings. Blessings.
Thank you. The thing that I would say about that is, like, if you look at, the idea of dispersion, the tendency to like separate or be separated or not see everything as a whole, or the idea of like a fractured ego, or ego broken up into pieces, or however you want to say it, or even just the idea of an illusion, or just being in a state of illusion. The state of illusion, sometimes like when I hear that, sometimes I'm like, when I look at myself, I was like, I don't know, I feel pretty clear. I don't feel like I'm living in illusion, but some of the illusion is the things we see in the world. It is tied to the collective unconscious. It's tied to the way other people see things, and the way other people value things. And of course, we're going to be influenced by that. And I'm not saying we're super perfect inside and we don't have our struggles, but part of all of that is tied to the throat chakra. And the throat chakra is a reflection of the crown. But I would say also that, your crown, your forehead, the area between the eyebrows are all associated with the higher soul. And the heart down is associated with the incarnated soul. And so part of those issues are a disconnect between the incarnated soul and the higher soul. And so as we go through, and even if we just look at it from the point of view of the chakras, there's an aspect of God within each of the chakras. It's what makes a chakra a chakra. Otherwise, they would just be an energy center. But because there's an aspect of God there, they become this chakra. They become, part of this thing that's part of the tree of life. And within that, there is this aspect of God, but there's also this aspect um, that's like kind of an adversary or a negative aspect. And it's not for us to like cast it out, but to refine ourselves to have mastery over that negative aspect within the energy center. And so as we look at the qualities of all the different energy centers or chakras in our body, we have these different things to cultivate. And the more that if we look at it simply from the point of view of vagal tone and intuition, the more that we bring vagal tone and intuition into each of the centers, that is the direct correspondence to the aspect of God. The repetition, the intellect, the fight flight mechanisms are the negative tendencies within that center, the adversary. And so the more that we refine all of those centers, the more that it becomes reflected in the throat, the more that we make a connection between the incarnated soul and the higher soul. Because again, like the intuition and the parasympathetic part of the nervous system, which is rest and repair, like I was saying just a minute ago, it is tied to uh, the soul, the higher soul, and the incarnated soul, how it's processing, it's evolving, it's growing. It's when you say processing, it's movement. And when you look at it from the point of view of like stress, fight, flight, repetition, the intellect, there is no processing there. And so the soul's not evolving. And therefore, the connection between the incarnated soul and the higher soul is quite diminished. For there to be a connection between those, it would naturally be causing the soul to evolve, right? And so when those negative tendencies are there, that isn't happening. It's a reflection of like that is not happening. And so we have greater levels of dispersion. We have greater levels of the fractured ego or potential illusion, especially illusion that's coming from the world. And when we look at the idea of dispersion, you can see somebody who maybe does one act over here and it's like I'm a very good person, I'm a great person, whatever, and then they go over here and they do a horrible act, like a horrible act, and they don't see the connection. They don't see that, yes, there might be some goodness, but there's also these other things that need to be like addressed. They just don't see that is an issue. And going back to what we're talking about, where there's a downpouring of living water, spiritual energy coming in, where we're all kind of experiencing this deeper level of stuff coming up, or things going on in the world where we're really having to dig a little bit deeper, is in a way it is helping us to process, to make that greater connection. Or if we're not making that connection, it really becomes an either or. Then we're de-evolving and we're regressing, and we're going deeper into the things that caused our suffering, either in this life or the things that we came in with. And so again, it comes back to our practices, our mindset, our ability to connect to the intuitive mind, and we keep saying intuitive mind, but it also is clairvoyance and having the spiritual eyes to see things. And that means that you're processing things mentally, and you're processing things emotionally, and you're processing things on an instinctive level, which is means you're processing the drives that come from the body itself. And the more that we cultivate that when these difficult times come, without even really having to think too hard or to do something extra, we start evolving at a more accelerated rate. Even though there might be difficulties that we see, we've already established the pattern. It really is the pattern of transmutation or transformation. We don't necessarily have to sit down and go, okay, these things are going on. I need to do my practice. If you've been doing your practice, at some point, it's about having an inner ability, not just knowing a technique. And that's what the message is with Astara, and that's what the message is with mysticism, is that it's not about a technique. It's not about this is going on, so I need to sit and do this. It's about developing that thing inside so that when something happens, you don't really have to think about it. You're just always moving towards the light. Because at first we walk with the light, and then we begin to experience love or the astral. And as we start to have that level of expansion, we're constantly faced with that aspect of free will. Am I moving toward the state of expansion where the soul's evolving? Am I embracing that? Or am I embracing the repetition and out of fear or out of anxiety or whatever it might be, am I de-evolving and just going back to my old patterns and like reinforcing them even to a greater degree? So the aspect of doing the materialization breath, is you're materializing light. But when you do Lama yoga, but especially the materialization breath, part of what's happening is you're constantly refining the will, the aspect of the will that's tied to free will, where every situation you're just going, I choose light. And then the next situation comes and you do your materialization breath and you go, I choose light. Instead of repetition in the old way, I want something new. I'm going to choose light. And then pretty soon you're just like, yeah, I'm drawn to the light. That's just what I do. Like in whatever is going on, I'm just always being drawn to the light. You might not consciously choose it, but you've already consciously chosen it, and you keep aligning with it, and then at some point you're just always being drawn to the light, regardless of what's going on in any situation. Yeah.
Thank you. We do have just a couple minutes. Do you want to bring in the light?
Yeah,
or-
yeah. Let's do a thing where we just have a few minutes, but think of something in your life that you'd like to, like healing, address, whatever it might be, and we'll do the materialization breath all together. Whatever it is, you've thought about it. Now feel it in your body. Where do you feel it in your body? And wherever that is, observe it. You're feeling it in your body. Now you're letting it go. Your chin's down to your chest. You're going to inhale, hold your breath, head up, exhale. Down, inhale, hold your breath, up, exhale. Down, inhale, 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 up, exhale. Just be still. And as we say, we're surrounded by the pure white light. That's affirming that we're surrounded by the light that comes in through intuition. We're affirming our alignment with the intuitive mind. And in doing so, only good comes to me and only good goes from me. I'm surrounded by the pure white light. Only good comes to me. Only good goes from me. Thanks for these conversations in these last two sessions. I really enjoyed those and I hope you did. And thanks for being on this path with us and doing all these things with us. And from all of us at Astara, we love you guys. Take care.